President Trump tweets a public warning to his fired FBI director in case he leaks to the media.
Plus, a cyber attack called WannaCry. It hits computers in 99 countries, holding data hostage and demanding a ransom.
And later on in the program, thousands of people greet Pope Francis in Portugal, where the Catholic Church will soon get 2 new saints.
It is 4 a.m. on the U.S. East Coast. We want to welcome our viewers here in the United States and all around the world. I'm George Howell, live at CNN World Headquarters in Atlanta.
And I'm Hannah Vaughan-Jones, live for you in London, where it's just gone 9 o'clock this Saturday morning. Great to have you with us. This is CNN Newsroom.
Have you been following the drama? 3 days now since the U.S. president fired his FBI director, and still it's not clear why he did it. Instead of settling this matter, Donald Trump tweeted a threat warning Comey against going public. Here's CNN's Jeff Zeleny to explain.
President Trump adding new fuel to the fire in his escalating fight with the FBI, making a veiled threat on Twitter to James Comey. The president saying the fired FBI director better hope that there are no tapes of our conversations before he starts leaking to the press. Stunning words from the commander-in-chief, directed at the nation's former top law enforcement official, the man who was leading an investigation into potential collusion between the Trump campaign and Russian operatives before being fired Tuesday. The president refused to answer the question he raised himself in an interview with Fox News.
What about the idea that in a tweet you said that there might be tape recordings?
Well, that I can't talk about. I won't talk about that. All I want is for Comey to be honest, and I hope he will be, and I'm sure he will be, I hope.
White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer also refused to answer whether there is a recording system in the Oval Office or whether the president is taping his conversations there or elsewhere.
I've talked to the president. The president has nothing further to add on that.
When asked again and again, Press Secretary Sean Spicer ended the daily White House briefing with the question whether any tapes exist still hanging in the air. Spicer disputed the suggestion the president's warning to Comey was a threat.
That's not a threat. He's simply stated a fact. The tweet speaks for itself. I'm moving on.
But it's unclear whether the president is moving on. He aimed another missive at Comey today after making his feelings clear in an NBC interview Thursday.
Look, he's a showboat. He's a grandstander.
At issue is a dinner the president invited Comey to 7 days after taking office. It was there, CNN has learned, the president asked his FBI director about loyalty.
We had a very nice dinner, and at that time he told me, you are not under investigation.
The president's obsession with the investigation into Russian meddling in the 2016 election is what led to Comey's firing. The credibility of the president and his advisors is in question as the White House becomes increasingly consumed by chaos and a crisis of leadership. The president is isolated and agitated, associates tell CNN. He finished a full week barely seen at the White House before making this brief afternoon appearance with the First Lady.
Hi, Ariel. What a friendly, beautiful group.
But his views have been heard in a roaring Twitter storm. He acknowledged conflicting explanations in the timeline of Comey's firing, offering no apology, but bluntly conceding accuracy seems optional. As a very active president with lots of things happening, it is not possible for my surrogates to stand at the podium with perfect accuracy. He went on to say maybe the best thing to do would be to cancel all future press briefings and hand out written responses for the sake of accuracy.
Wow, we got a full house today.
The White House press secretary was back at the podium under siege after a perilous week for the administration.
Time and time again, an attempt to parse every little word and make it more of a game of gotcha.
Looking to point blame elsewhere, the president is frustrated by his communications team, telling Fox News he might take matters into his own hands.
Sean Spicer. He is a wonderful human being. He's a nice man.
Is he your press secretary today and tomorrow? Will he be tomorrow?
Sure. He's doing a good job, but he gets beat up.
Will he be there tomorrow?
Yeah, well, he's been there from the beginning.
For now, Spicer remains in place, apparently just in time to be lampooned again on Saturday Night Live. Melissa McCarthy, Spicer's impersonator, spotted today in Midtown Manhattan, filming this week's episode. So as this incredibly chaotic week comes to an end, still many questions hanging over this White House. One, of course, of credibility. 2, who will the next FBI director be? And 3, does the president actually have a recording device, either in the Oval Office or elsewhere, recording these conversations? The White House, of course, would not talk about that, but going forward here, This whole issue of firing James Comey has stymied their legislative agenda. He'll be traveling abroad next week, his first foreign trip of his presidency. They're hoping that helps get the president back on track. Jeff Zeleny, CNN, the White House.
Jeff Zeleny, thanks for the reporting. A lot to unpackage here. Let's bring in Leslie Vinjamuri now for context, who teaches international relations at the University of London, live in London with us this hour. Leslie, let's start with this threat, some say a veiled threat, though clearly a threat to the former FBI Director James Comey on Twitter by the President of the United States. First of all, what does this say about Mr. Trump putting this on record? And secondly, Leslie, what about the people around him who are supposed to be his advisors?
Well, I think that the president's advisors have continued to struggle to manage and contain the president. It was said recently that this is really their biggest job, is dealing with what comes out of the president, as opposed to what's coming out from beyond the White House. But clearly, this seems to be a case where the management of all the fallout surrounding the last few days since President Trump fired the FBI director have made things much worse rather than better. So there's a clear problem of the things that President Trump is saying are leading people to believe that he is potentially obstructing justice, which of course is a criminal problem. The firing itself is deeply problematic, but not illegal, as we know. But it's the things that have come out since that are making people very concerned. Did he actually meet with Comey and pressure him to be loyal? This would, suggest a grave doubt about the respect that he has for the independence of the FBI, which is crucial to American democracy. So there are a lot of core norms that form the basis of the United States that Donald Trump is violating right now, that need to be, his advisors need to really pull him back, but they're having a difficulty doing that.
You list a few of the concerns there. As you point out, this is within the president's right to fire the FBI director, but certainly the timing of all of this, given that this is the FBI director who was overseeing an investigation into Trump associates during the campaign and possibly in the administration. So in this threat, again, it indicates that there may have been recording devices present during a conversation. Neither the president nor his press secretary would confirm or deny that information, but what are the implications if there are recording devices, Leslie?
Well, Trump does have a history of recording. Recording wouldn't be beyond the law, as far as I understand it. But there's a real question of, will that come out? We should share. Given the current context, it would be important to share that. He probably will not. But it's a question of what that conversation was. And again, has he respected the independence of the FBI, of the FBI's investigation? Was there undue pressure put on Comey? What was the nature of that conversation? And we're hearing many different things. And we're hearing these things from the president, which is the great irony here. Now, the other problem is what happens going forward. And what we've seen in the past is that the president actually, in many recent appointments, has actually gone out of his way to choose something who has very, if you think about when we lost the national security advisor, he then appointed somebody with a great deal of respect amongst his peers. So who he appoints to be the next FBI director, I think, will take us a long way towards understanding how this crisis will unfold. If it's somebody who's seen to be very credible, very independent, very serious person, that will help. And then there's a real question about, whether we're just going to see the current investigation managed by the FBI go forward, whether the House and Senate intelligence investigations will go forward, or whether we'll see the appointment of a special counsel or an independent commission. There have been calls for both. But at the moment, most Republicans are lining up behind the president. So I think the likelihood of getting an independent commission or a special committee, as Senator McCain has called for, is not high at the moment. And it looks like the FBI is likely to simply proceed with the existing investigation. Now, the president, the new FBI director, will be critical to how much resource gets put into that investigation and whether it can carry forward in a very serious way, or whether it is obstructed through a series of small measures.
Well, that is interesting because, again, we talk about timing. Right before the former FBI director was fired, he was actually ramping up, escalating that investigation, calling on for more resources from the Justice Department. So, look, there's a good CNN.com right that I would certainly invite our viewers around the world to check out about a president isolated and agitated. You heard Jeff Zeleny speak of that in his report. What does all of this do, though? Everything that we've talked about, what does it do for his domestic agenda? Because he's a president who said that he wants to, bring jobs about and bring certain changes. What does all this do for that?
just tremendously distracting. It's distracting for the president. It puts the Republicans in Congress in a very difficult position. Remember, this all came on the back of arguably President Trump's first legislative success, which was getting the health care reform passed through the House. That still has to go to the Senate, where it will face great difficulties. And now the broader context is that the Congress is caught up once again, not only in this broader investigation of Russia's cyber attacks and Trump's relationship to Russia with respect to that, but now with the Comey firing. So it's a tremendous distraction at a time when the president really hasn't accomplished very much at all with respect to his legislative agenda. He wants to push forward tax reform. And remember that in just a few days, he's about to get on an airplane for his first major foreign trip. So I imagine that will take Washington's temporary focus away and to turn it back to the world. But it's not doing much to help push forward a legislative agenda as we push forward to the 150-day mark of this presidency.
He is carrying a great deal of baggage on that flight. Leslie Vigimuri, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Fascinating discussion there, George. And we're going to stay with this story. And several U.S. agencies are investigating Moscow's meddling in U.S. elections and, of course, whether there was indeed any collusion with members of the Trump team. CNN's Tom Foreman shows us why the FBI is top of the investigative tree.
If you look at all the different agencies investigating the possible Russian connection to the election and maybe to the Trump team, it's a lot of different groups out there, from the Department of Justice and the FBI to congressional committees to the Department of Defense, all the way down to the intelligence community. Tip of the spear, though, is the FBI over here. They have the ability right now, and they are right now, collecting evidence, questioning people, and analyzing an awful lot of data to see if anything was done wrong out here. If they find something, yeah, they can get together with the Department of Justice there, and they can put together an indictment and have criminal charges against somebody. Is this aimed specifically at Team Trump? No, it is not. It is aimed at the overall question of Russian involvement in the election, although the outgoing director, who was just fired, said, yeah, they have to consider people on the Trump team as part of that investigation. Beyond that, what about the congressional part of this equation? Right here in the middle, all these committees, what can they do? They can keep summoning witnesses, getting them on TV and on the record, and keep the story front and center. They can't really produce criminal charges, but they can keep this story very much alive. And if a bombshell comes out of something that they do out there, well, then that may help keep things going in a lot of different ways, and it could produce a special commission or committee. They can name such a thing. If that happens, then you move into a whole separate phase here, because what about those special commissions or committees? Are they bipartisan? Can be, but usually they will reflect the majority as you see it. So you would see Republicans, who control the House and Senate, probably control such a committee. It would tend to be seen as a little bit more independent, a little bit more free of political influence, and it would be a fact-finding group out there. And I say it is what it is because each one of these seems to have its own rules about how long it will last and what it will do with its power out there. The bottom line, though, is if you get to this point, and this committee wants to, it can have real teeth in pursuing that investigation and leading toward bigger political steps, even as the criminal case is also being pursued.
Tom Foreman, thank you. Attorney General Jeff Sessions, now to him. He was involved in firing Comey, who recused himself again, Sessions did, from any role in the Russia investigation in early March. But now, many people are asking whether Sessions should have played a part at all in terminating Comey. Randy Kate takes a closer look for us.
I have now decided to recuse myself from any existing or future investigations of any matter relating in any way to the campaigns for President of the United States.
Attorney General Jeff Sessions recusing himself from the investigation into the Trump campaign's alleged ties to Russia and its meddling in the presidential election. That was March 2nd, after Sessions failed to disclose his meeting with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak during his confirmation hearing.
I should not be involved in investigating a campaign I had a role in.
But more than 2 months later, right back in the thick of it, despite Sessions officially sidelining himself, many are now questioning if he violated his recusal by advising President Donald Trump on the decision to fire FBI Director James Comey. The fact is, Sessions promised to recuse himself from any existing or future investigations of any matters related to the campaign. So why was he in the Oval Office on Monday this week counseling the president about Comey, who was heading up the Russia investigation?
He asked them for their recommendation based on the conversation that they had on Monday. He asked them to put that recommendation in writing, but they came to him on his own.
The White House says the president reviewed those written recommendations and made his decision the following day. Still, let's remember the White House initially said Comey was fired because of how he handled the Hillary Clinton email scandal. But we now know that, according to the president himself, that is not accurate. He says the Russia investigation played a role in his decision to cut Comey loose. Which brings us back to Jeff Sessions and his so-called recusal.
He violated that public commitment when he made a recommendation to President Trump to fire Comey. There's strong evidence that the firing of Comey was related to the investigation of Russia and the Trump campaign.
Democratic Senator Al Franken slammed Sessions in a statement, saying he was deeply troubled. Franken called it a complete betrayal of his commitment to the public that he wouldn't be involved in the investigation. On top of that, we've learned Sessions is also interviewing candidates to replace Comey, meaning Jeff Sessions will have a key role in picking who will be in charge of the Russia investigation, the very investigation he vowed not to be a part of.
Based on his commitment from March, Attorney General Sessions needs to recuse from participating in the vetting of those candidates as well. Attorney General Sessions shouldn't be involved in selecting the next director of the FBI.
The White House sees it very differently.
Look, the FBI is doing a whole lot more than the Russia investigation, so he should absolutely have a role in seeing who runs that agency and that department.
Randi Kaye, CNN, New York.
Randi, thanks very much for that reporting. Stay with us here on CNN Newsroom. Coming up, computers crippled, totally useless, unless you pay up. We'll hear how to protect your own computer from this global cyber attack.
Over the past 14 years, Dubai Healthcare City has grown to establish itself as a world-class health destination. We are building on 4 key pillars to create an ecosystem that covers not only health and well-being, but also training the doctors of the future.
As the next stage of its expansion, Dubai Healthcare City is developing a wellness destination. It will combine preventative care with the highest standards of eco-friendly living.
We are proud to be creating an internationally recognized destination for health and well-being that strengthens Dubai's vision to become a sustainable and diverse city of the future.
With just a matter of weeks to go until it all gets underway, this month on Main Sail we're in Bermuda, previewing the 35th America's Cup.
It's the oldest trophy in world sport. Since 1851, it has been attracting the biggest names in sailing and some of the richest men on the planet, lured by the challenge of winning the sport's most prestigious trophy.
Mainsail, tonight on CNN, in partnership with Rolex.
I'm Robin Creel. These are your top business headlines. Hospitals across the UK have been hit by a large-scale cyber attack. Health workers reported being locked out of their computers and seeing messages demanding ransom payments to regain access. Officials say there is no evidence patient data has been compromised. The cyber attackers are one of more than 45,000 attacks in 74 countries reported by Kaspersky in just 10 hours. Airlines are making preparations for an expanded U.S. ban on laptops to include flights from Europe. An industry source tells CNN they're waiting on the order from the Trump administration. The VR startup Improbable has raised over $500 million from investors, including Japanese tech giant SoftBank. This makes it one of the few British startups valued at over $1 billion. Speaking to CNN's Paula Newton earlier, the CEO said the capital was vital for the company's goal.
For us, you know, our end game is basically the ability for people to live in more than one world at once. And that's going to involve massive technical challenges and investment that we see as a 10 to 20-year journey. So for us, this capital is about planning for the long term and being ready to create the kind of company that can actually deliver on that world-changing promise.
Those are your top business headlines. I'm Robin Creel.
Sunday on CNN, the Comey fallout continues. The firing, the investigations, the threat, and the outrage. Could we be looking at the new Watergate? Fareed and the panel debate. Fareed Zakaria, GPS. Sunday on CNN.
CNN and Formula One from inside the pit lane and the paddock on CNN.com/motorsport.
This weekend, the Spanish Grand Prix in association with DHL.
The markets of the Middle East are some of the most important in the world today, with opportunities around every corner and development that never seems to stop. The Middle East is investing in its future, establishing new relationships every day. But what does the next decade look like for these emerging markets? I'm right in the middle of it, bringing you the answers and analysis you can only get on CNN.
Marketplace Middle East, today on CNN.
Welcome back to CNN Newsroom. I'm George Howell. Now to tell you about a worldwide cyber attack. It's had tens of thousands of computers showing error messages like the screen here. This was the screen at the UK's National Health Service demanding ransom to unlock the files. Some hospitals even had to cancel appointments because of it. At least 99 countries have been targeted, and we're learning that the hackers took advantage of vulnerability in Windows computers. Earlier, British Prime Minister Theresa May addressed this security breach. Let's listen.
Well, we're aware that a number of NHS organisations have reported that they have suffered from a ransomware attack. This was not targeted at the NHS. It's an international attack, and a number of countries and organisations have been affected.
Let's get up to speed with all of this. Our Nina Dos Santos is following the impact of the hacking here in London. Diana Magne has the latest in Moscow. Russia, of course, being one of the countries hit the hardest. Nina, to you first. What is this virus? And given the fact that we know at least 99 countries have been affected, including Britain and our National Health Service, how contagious is it?
Well, it's obviously very contagious because, as we've seen, this is one of the most damaging cyber attacks in the best part of a decade, Hannah. What hackers have done here, essentially, is they've used a cyber weapon called Eternal Blue that was originally developed by US spies at the NSA, the US National Security Agency, to try and supercharge an existing form of criminal malware, which is similar to a particular virus called the WannaCry virus. And what they've done here is they've managed to infiltrate many different computers by using large-scale computer networks of big organisations, be it the National Health Service here in the UK. We've also had reports of Telefonica, the mobile phone company out in Spain, power companies in Spain to Portugal, Taiwan, everywhere around the world, Germany, Tajikistan, and even the Interior Ministry of Russia having been infected. So essentially what they think, cybersecurity experts think, is that a criminal gang here has been trying to make money with what's called ransomware. So what happens is when this virus infects your computer is it encrypts all of your data. You get that screen that George was just showing us before, asking you to pay a ransom of about $230 in Bitcoin, which of course is an online cryptocurrency. And we do know that some of those Bitcoin accounts have already started filling up, although there's no evidence of exactly which big organisations have paid any of these ransoms. And here in the UK, it's doubtful that an organisation like the NHS would do so, Hannah.
Diana, I want to bring in you in Moscow. What is Russia or the Russian government saying about all of this and the scope of this hack, given that, as Nina was just saying, we now hear that it's not just public data and public computers that have been accessed, but also some personal data as well, really at the heart of the Russian government?
That's right. Russia's Interior Ministry says that 1,000 of its computers were compromised, but that is only 1%. And they said that no data had been stolen. The Health Ministry says that their systems haven't been attacked. We know that several telecoms companies were targeted. One of them, Megafon, was was compromised. Sberbank, also a very big bank here, was targeted. The minister who is in charge of the internet was, he's the advisor on the internet to President Putin. He has said that he doesn't expect there to be any big economic loss as a result of this, simply that there will be possible data breaches, but nothing on a significant scale economically to worry about. But it is the country that has been hit the hardest and exponentially harder than any other country by these attacks. Interesting, too, what we're hearing from Edward Snowden's Twitter feed. He, of course, is in Russia, and he has been criticizing the NSA for allowing its cyber weaponry to have been hacked and to have been made available online by this hacker group called Shadow Brokers. They compromised the systems. They somehow got their hands on these cyber tools of the NSA and dumped them online in April. He has said, Edward Snowden, in the past, that they were associated with the Russian government. But of course then cyber criminals can get hold of those weapons and use them for their own effects. Ironically, in this case, targeting mostly Russian companies. Hannah?
Very interesting indeed, especially to hear what Edward Snowden has been saying about it, as you say, Diana. Nina Dos Santos live for us here in London with me, and Diana Magne in Moscow. Thanks very much indeed.
Live from the UK and the United States, this is CNN Newsroom, and still ahead, the U.S. appears to set a ban on laptops in cabins on flights from Europe. Why some officials, though, say it is a dangerous move. Stay with us.
Passion is something that drives you, that lights a fire inside you. And when you mix it with commitment and talent, you can create anything. On Passion to Portfolio, we turn the spotlight on people with this passion, ones on the front lines of power and celebrity, harnessing their talents to build a portfolio. Entrepreneurs, artists and innovators, making it in a global marketplace. Passion to Portfolio, tonight on CNN, in association with Access Bank.
Next time on Vital Signs, unlocking stem cells' potential all over the world, from Europe to the United States.
You inject them in the heart, they learn from the living heart cells what to become. If you inject them in the knee, they become cartilage.
See the impact these experimental studies could have on the treatment of autism.
Before this study, autism affected probably 75% of our day, and now autism maybe affects 10%.
Vital Signs, Wednesday on CNN, in association with Dubai Healthcare City.
Buying an airline ticket. It's like rolling the dice, spinning the roulette wheel. On the next CNN Business Traveller, we're cracking the code for a better seat.
It's telling me you should book now.
And flying for free with a flush of cards.
Have you seen the places I've been and how I've flown?
The risks.
It's infuriating.
The reward.
Now I'm the top of the leaderboard.
With plane fares. We're in Las Vegas on the next CNN Business Traveller.
In association with Invest Macedonia and Macedonia Tourism.
From inside the pit lane and the paddock on Formula One's race weekend, CNN's The Circuit will bring you all the latest. The drivers, the teams, and the cars.
The Circuit, Thursday on CNN, in association with DHL.
Sunday morning, The Axe-Files with David Axelrod returns, with Jerry Brown, California's longest-serving governor, in the spotlight. The man with a storied political career sounds off on the future of the Democratic Party, plus why he's leading his state in the fight against Trump.
Trump, by becoming the face of anti-Obamacare and the face of climate denial, gives both of those causes a very bad name.
The Axe-Files with David Axelrod, a CNN special.